Hey guys, welcome. Hat Tuesday number 22. Hat Tuesday number 22, the big deuce. And we got my man Robert. How are you, Robert? It's been a little bit.
It's been a while. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
All right, excellent. We got Josh joining us in the comment section. Welcome, Josh. Robert, man, I'm so glad. There were so many topics that we've done. Well, I won't say so many because it's only been a few weeks, but there was a few of those that were like, okay, Robert definitely is somebody that needs to weigh in, and I think you have on a lot of them in terms of our group chat. But yeah, I've been one thing I mentioned in one of the videos is that I've gotten some really great feedback on your presence here on the channel. So I just wanted to make sure that I formally share that with you. That way, people are watching, they really like what they're seeing with you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's like it's I say to people, it's like being a hat maker. It's a solitary endeavor. So it's like, hey Paul.
Hi. I'm sorry I didn't realize how much of a mess I've been making this up.
No, you're fine.
That's Paul. That's why I've even thought of getting a fake background, but the way my computer's set up, you can't, because my mess is to the left and to the right, not behind me. So my mess is hidden. So
yeah,
you're looking good, Robert, and then you are too, Luke. So great to be here today.
Thank you. And Paul, like I said, you mentioned already, you had already confessed that right around the time this 1 p.m. Eastern Standard slot time is the time when you're typically working. So it makes sense that you're going to see a little bit of the mess. So don't worry, it doesn't look bad. It actually looks pretty neat to me.
Well, I've been going through some stress today. As I think you mentioned it, Robert. When you make a new hat and you send it out, especially to the first time that somebody buys a hat from you, and you've never made one before, and I've made one for a gentleman with a 63 centimeter head. So I had to. I bought the 3D printer that could print ABS plastic. So Josh very kindly helped me out with the program, and I printed it and made it. He got there, and all he said was one line. He said, "Paul, it's beautiful." So a sense of relief. But so that's sort of been today, and I've got another block printing at the moment. I've got 3 builds on the go at different stages, waiting for different bits and pieces. So it's a bit of a mess. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, shout out to Josh for assisting you with that, and I love that cooperation. Josh here says, "Glad I could help, Paul." It's always nice when you have folks. I know Robert definitely has already is really well ensconced into the 3D printing world. But folks like myself, I've never owned a 3D printer. I do know the utility of it. So it's nice that a lot of folks have already kind of they've got a comfort in the area, and then you can already see Paul's already dipped his toes. He'll be an expert before you know it.
Yeah, I'm a philistine as far as computers are concerned, and I had to. I was back in the day. It used to have a secretary. What are they these days? And so trying to learn the new technology, I just thought, well, in all fairness, Josh was very supportive in thinking it'd be a good idea, and he mentioned the one that he thought would be the best one to go for. So I just went for it. It happened to be when they had a good offer on it, so you know what it's like. You bite the bullet and go for it. So I think over in the UK to get a block made is about £180. I don't know whether that competes with yourself over there, Robert, but it's quite a lot of money. And of course, 3D printing. I think the ABS material works out around about £10 a block, I think. So it's quite a considerable difference. As to I prefer working with wood. By wanting to conserve the traditions, but ABS plastic, when you're not doing sizes that are regular sizes, I guess is a way forward.
Yeah,
because I have a wooden size 63 block, and in my 7 years I've used it twice. So theoretically, it's like I'll never get my money back out of it.
No. Right.
Yeah, it's so difficult when you're a hatter, looking at all the tools that you need. And I've got nowhere near the tools that probably you've got, Robert, and other people have got. But I'm playing on the edges really, and I'm lucky to be able to do what I can do. But you can never really stop. I mean, you get. I mean, Robert said this on many occasions, so I'm only echoing it. But every week there's something new, and my wife keeps telling me, "Haven't you got enough of that hat stuff?
Yeah.
Haven't you got enough?" And you're buying, you're buying more ribbon than I am. I said today I ordered up 3 rolls of grosgrain, Peterson grosgrain, and that was £57. Now they're 30-meter rolls, each of them, so that's actually quite cheap. But
Right.
But it's still £57, isn't it? It's another expense. So all of it, when you think you're going to make some money, your stock just gets bigger, but you're investing it back into the hat thing. So it sounds like it's a relatively cheap thing to get into, but believe me, it's not.
I had a conversation with a fellow. He started out in Canada, but yeah, he's moved to Spain, and he's setting up his business there. And we were talking about he doesn't have enough flanges, and it's kind of like none of us do. But he's found a way of making it work, right? And I said, if you get into this business, or the deeper you get into the business, you're going to reach a point where you grow tired of the workarounds.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
And for me, that's been the impetus to buy more stuff, because it's like, it's like when you've got a 10-week wait list, and there's pressures. It's like having to do the workarounds, and it's like it's so much more. I didn't really feel that I was a professional hatter until really I'd accumulated. I think I've got about 100 flanges.
Yeah.
It's like, because now, for the most part, there's still gaps, but very seldom do I have to do workarounds. And now it's like I can just go to my shelf and pull off the flange that I need. And it's like,
right.
That's amazing. I mean, 100 flanges. I put that into perspective, Luke. I've probably got 8 or 10. I've probably got 10 actually.
Wow.
And I've bought a few of them new. But when you buy a flange and then you buy the stands, you're into £500 for one flange.
Right.
It's just, so buying second hand, if you can find them, the old traditional flanges, it's great. But then, as with myself, I've got quite a disjointed number of shapes, but they, as you say, Robert, they enable you to do a bit of a workaround, if that's, so I'll get there.
And in the beginning, I did kind of enjoy that. It's like, it's the challenge, it's like, I have to make this hat, and these are my tools. It's like, how do I do it?
Yeah.
I think my point is that eventually that challenge wears off, and it's like, oh crap, And
and I think part of the and again, this is just my naivete, maybe the journeys, right? So I mean, Robert's already shared that he's had the privilege of working with Art Fawcett, and sometimes when you're working with some of those other hatters and you start seeing some of their tools, right? Like the tools, like you see their tool shed, you start saying, okay, and then you start seeing not wanting, but seeing the need and how they're using the various tools. And then all of a sudden it's very easy for the mind to justify, all right, I'm going to bring that in. I'm going to bring that in. And at some point you reach saturation, but
my next month's, well, I haven't written it yet, but it's my next submission for the Hat magazine is writing about hat making by hand and by machine.
Yeah.
And what are the gains in both efficiency, which is the obvious one, and then but addressing, are there gains in quality to be had?
Yeah.
Versus I don't know, $100K, $100,000 to set up with the right, with the full gamut of machinery. I mean, so you've got all the expense of the flange, all of the stuff. Then on top of that, you add another 100K for the actual machinery, and it's like it's not doable.
Right.
No, I mean, you get the consistency of the shape and the style and everything, but I spend a little bit of time with new customers going through the differences between what we make in terms of making it by hand and with open ground, to what somebody like Lock and Co or Bates might make, or Laird, where they're buying the metal molds and then having them pressed with the gas steamers and stuff, and then they start to get it. They start to understand it, because they can see that you've got the big manufacturers like Christie's and so on that do this themselves. Then you've got so in the UK there are now shops being set up so that I could buy 10 felts and go along there and get them to press out 10 felts of the same size. But I'd have to buy the mold, or actually I could rent the mold if they've got the mold that I want to use. So that's quite a breakthrough, which we've not had before, and that's become because one of the suppliers, Baxter, Hart and Abraham, have bought equipment from a business that was shutting down and set up a shop next door to their distribution company, and are going to be offering that as a service, from what I understand. So I'm quite excited by that, because that then gives the likes of myself an opportunity to step up and go into that. But you know what? I've not actually got an appetite for that. I'm quite happy, just doing what I'm doing. I mean, I can't be happier, honestly. Just talking to people and helping their thoughts on a hat come to life, and then when they get it, to get the comments back. There's nothing better when you're a creative person to get satisfaction. So I mean, it's but it's an interesting subject, Robert. I mean, I look out for that with interest.
Yeah, it's I mean, I can't speak to, because I don't own any machinery, right? My fanciest piece of equipment is my steam boiler. Like, that's it. So I've got a number of hatters that do have some degree of machinery to weigh in on it and get their opinion. And there also are old time hatters, 20, 30 year guys that eschew any machinery at all, and they maintain that the best hats are completely handmade. So you've got this whole continuum of perspectives, which I think it's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, I mean, I'll tell you, we have a great topic, but before we get into that topic, I just want to make sure that I give a shout out to FEPSA. FEPSA Felts actually commented on the channel, on the video where you showed Paul the felts, the unboxing, so to speak. And wow, that was another, like, for me, another nice little drop of achievement, I guess, for the channel, the small channel. And then we have a company like FEPSA, and I made sure to compliment and thank them for dropping the comment, and just tell them to keep doing the great work. But yeah, shout out to FEPSA out there. Keep doing what you're doing.
Well, it would be nice to slowly make I'll send them a few links every now and again, and get the rapport going, because it's always good to have a good relationship with a supplier. I know that the likes of myself, I'm not buying lots from them, but I think that people like ourselves, we can have a little bit of influence, and they need to have an influence at different levels, and you never know. I mean, you never know when somebody in the fashion world or something is going to come along and get Robert or myself to make some hats for a lineup, or and to be able to then promote and say it's the FEPSA felts and things. I think that's a great thing to do. So I was very, very pleased when they did that. And I don't know whether you know, Robert, but FEPSA very kindly gave us the breakdown of their system that they use to explain the X's on their felts, but also the other letters and what they stand for, and what stands for the different types of felt. So that was extremely useful. So if you'd like a copy, I'll send you it. But
because I do find their online store really, really hard to navigate, and really hard to understand exactly what it is, and so I've yet to buy one from them.
Yeah.
Shout out to Morgan.
It's worth buying. I don't know what your import duties are like, but certainly, for myself, it's I think it's about £25 for the shipment, and then there's the VAT, the 20%. But that's about it. So it still remains quite competitive in the costs for the felt. So, and of course, I love the quality.
Yeah.
Although
the one thing I do miss, I love working with my favorite is the 95 gram beaver. And they're factory finished to they call it their 1200. I bought it from Tim at Pure Beaver. But I do miss the pouncing step. And with the FEPSA felts that Tim sells, I don't get to do the pounce. And I miss that, because I think that's the part of hatting that I want to get better at, because to me, that's maybe the tell of a good hatter. Is like, how do you what's the finish on your hats like? How well do you finish a hat?
That sounds like that would be a future video right there on pouncing. I know for myself, I want to hear about that, especially from hatters such as yourself. I know Josh has also talked about it as well. But for our folks that are a lot newer, and myself included, definitely want to hear more about that process, especially now that you mentioned that, Robert. Josh just mentioned pouncing. I agree, is one of my favorite steps. I want to learn more.
And the big question, I guess, Robert, is: do you use a machine or do you use hand? I mean, I use hands, but I see a lot of people using sanding machines, and I just think that's a bit abrasive. But I don't know.
I bought a sander early on, and I don't use it.
Right.
I prefer. I don't know if you want to, Luke, if you want to go down this road, but when I'm sanding the crown, I use my bare hand and cup the sanding at the paper, and because the crown is round. And then when I do the brim, then I'll use a sanding block, because I'm dealing with a flat surface. But it's kind of like sewing in the sweatband, and it's like if I get my mind right, I enjoy it. It's a meditative, it's kind of work. It's just, it's soothing.
Kind of like waxing your car, right?
Whereas with the sander, you're right. It's like you got to pay attention, and I much prefer, because we're not talking about a huge amount of time. And it's like I'm not running a factory where we have to do time and motion studies so that I'm operating at peak efficiency, because I'm probably the most inefficient hatter out there. But I don't care. I'm going to enjoy the damn process.
I love it. Hey, well, we'll definitely again, if you guys are out there and you want to know more about pouncing, we'll do a dedicated show on that. But right now we do have a great topic. This is another topic submitted by Nathan about how to store your hats, and this is going to be I think it's going to be very interesting, because there are definitely guidelines, and I think that there are going to be a lot of folks that have different opinions, and they're all kind of valid in their own certain way. But it's nice that we have at least two hatters here on screen, because I think that the hatters, they go for what's the proper way, right? If you let's say you have one hat, they're going to be the ones telling you, okay, you want to take care of this one hat. We know how expensive it is and how much you value it. I don't know who wants to go first, but I'll let the hatters go first before I jump in my vintage.
Paul, do you want to go? Go ahead.
Okay. I mean, I think I was relaying a story recently where I've got a client who his wife has only said he can have one hat. And is
there a divorce imminent here?
Well, it's my challenge, Robert. I said to him, "You've set me a challenge now," and I just aside, but I made him the hat out of rabbit fur felt to see that the actual size and everything is right first of all. but he actually wants one in 235 gram 100x beaver Fepsa felt. So this felt was about 350 pounds. It was a really so I've got it in for him, and
Holy
we're making
crap.
Yeah, I know. I wouldn't put it quite like that, but yeah. But it's top line, you know.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing there is I said to him, okay, well, we're going to have to get this type of these type of hat boxes. So I'm now having these made shortly for my brand, but it's really for the people with the more expensive hats. But if they've got a single hat and they want to look after it, I mean, obviously it depends. If they're going to wear it daily, then it's a different conversation. But if they're going to wear it occasionally, then keep it out of sunlight. Make sure that you've got a decent brush to give it a good old brush when you get home to get the dust and dirt out of it. Otherwise, if it's been raining and you've got dust on it, it's going to get into the pile. It's going to agitate and cause problems. So, and if it has got that in there, use a clean cloth with a little bit of water on it, just to wipe it over, let it dry naturally. And if it needs to go back to shape, a little bit of steam, but then pack it away. So sun and the air will damage the hat over time if it's in sun.
Yeah.
But I was just going to say there's also these sort of, this is old school professional sort of handmade. I'm not sure whether this is leather or not, but this is a proper hat box from the 1950s, I think. Do you know, I even forgot I had a hat in here. I bought the box and then I forgot I had the hat in here. But so I don't know what it is, but I haven't restored it yet. But I'm sure it will be a nice hat when it's done. But very much a 1940s sort of look hat, you know. But that's quite interesting in so much as there's the space and then there's the little pouch at the back there. But I think the big investment that I'd say to people really is probably the brush. First of all, is get hold of a decent brush, and then if you've got more than one hat, probably a steamer. But if you're wearing the hat every day, what I do is I've got these little. I'm sure you must have them over there. 3M make these little hooks that you can. I think they're called command hooks, where you just peel off the back and you stick them on the wall, and then you put the hat on there. Is that what you've got there, Luke?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Honestly, it's
command hook.
Yeah,
because I rent, so these have to come down easily.
Yeah, they don't take the paint off. I think that was the best solution that I found for in my hat room here. I've got, I don't know, 30 hats in front of me and round, and then about 60 or 70 in the dining room. But the little command hook, I've not had any of them fall down overnight or anything like that. Yeah. So I would definitely recommend that. But I tell you what, just to finish off, I tell you what Brian did. Did you remember Brian Forbes? Was it Brian Forbes? He put his hats into a plastic bag and then put them on a command hook, so that the dust wouldn't get into them, which I think was a very good idea actually. But I've not tried that yet. Yeah,
I like that idea. The command hooks, I completely agree, Paul. They have been really easy to implement, easy to take off if you need to. And again, I think one of the things that were inherent in a lot of this is the place where you store your hats, right? You want to make sure that you have a cool, dry place, a stable environment, not exposing the hat to any kind of weird temperature. And some of that, as long as it's indoors, I think most times it's going to be fine. But you never know, right? Some folks might have a shed that they're throwing their hats in because who knows? It could be their significant other that's causing that, right? Some of that territorialness over where you store your hats. And you kind of have to realize that, well, once you start getting those extreme temperatures and who knows what else, right? If something can get into your shed and do something to your hats, it seems like obvious advice, but at the same time, I think sometimes you start realizing, you see some folks that lose a bunch of stuff that way, the hard way. You learn the hard way.
Yeah.
Robert?
For me, the critical thing is asking the question is, do you have forced air heating in your house?
Right.
Because if you do, dust is a major issue.
Correct.
And we have we live in a mild temperature, but during the winter our furnace still runs, and the amount of dust that it creates is quite staggering.
Yeah.
I know, because in my office I don't dust, and so if I brush my printer and so I keep my hats in boxes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I've got them. I have them stacked, and it's a problem because I have so many, and they're stacked upwards of 10 high, and so if the hat that I want is at the bottom, and usually I'm on the run, so
Right.
that hat doesn't get worn because it's just too difficult to pull out. So what I try to do in a totally unorganized way is I kind of have rotation, and I'll have maybe 3 or 4 hats out that I'll wear for a while, and then I'll put them away. But what I do is my shop is just behind me. It's half of my garage, and it's not heated, so there's no forced air heating in there. So if it's a hat that if it's in rotation that I'm wearing, I just keep it out there.
Right.
Then I don't have to worry about brushing.
Yeah.
The other thing is, if you have a hat box with a secure lid, it's not a guarantee preventative, but it does inhibit mothing.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's great point there in terms of moth. That's the enemy.
I remember with Art Fawcett, because he had an actual shop that was quite big, and he had a huge inventory of felts. And I forget how often he would do it, but like he would have he would spray, and I forget the insecticide that he would use, but it was a benign one. But it was like, because he said that there's he would lay awake at night, worrying about moth getting into his felts. Which, when you think about it, it's so at least having them in boxes does prevent some of the moth ingress.
Right.
There was, it's around here somewhere, but one of my throwaway hats, just a grab and go. I would come in and I would just sort of fling it, and it would sit on the carpet.
Yeah.
And I mean, as far as I know, like, I don't have moths.
Right.
But one day I picked up the hat. I hadn't worn it in about a month. I picked up the hat, and there was a moth nibble.
There you go.
At the sweatband, so it's like they're, and I think the problem is that it was just there on the rug, exposed, and and it's stealth, right? It can happen quite quickly with no visible, it's like I never saw any moths.
Right.
But they're there.
And I'll share a concoction that I learned from Kevin Gerber, and that's to kind of mix, right? If you're into essential oils, you probably already have peppermint and lavender, right? They're like usually some of those base oils. And again, I can't speak to whether it's a placebo effect, and maybe, you know what I mean? Right? I'm not a chemist. All I can say is that I've used that concoction, and I have it down here in my man cave. And I've never had a problem with moths, I mean, other than the moth bites that have been there right when I acquired a vintage hat. So at least for myself and for Kevin, and then anybody else that has had a chance to use that, again, this is just one of those things. I'm like, I don't know, was I always going to be fine without it? I couldn't tell you because I didn't run an experiment. But one, it smells very pleasant, and two, if it has any kind of repellent ability, then great. That's like, it's the best of both worlds, because some of those concoctions can be not really so great smelling,
you solve one problem,
correct,
create another one that's like,
and Morgan has a great question. Why do moths like felt?
Because it's a protein, and it's not the moths that eat the felt.
Right.
it presents a good area for them to lay their eggs,
Right.
and it's the larvae when it hatches that eats the felt
Right.
because it's a protein.
Right.
So any protein source like wool, felt, that's like they don't eat cotton, they don't
Yeah.
eat polyester.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know they favor the darker felts. I mean, did I get that right? There's that theory. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Right.
I've done my share of repairs on both the dark and the light, so
Right.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I know they do like in terms of clothing. I think cashmere must taste better than Shetland wool or something, because it's like if there's a piece of clothing in your closet that gets attacked by it, like, it'll be the cashmere sweater that gets it first.
Right. Correct.
It's funny you should say that. I've got a cashmere overcoat, and it's about 30 years old now. I bought it new 30 odd years ago, and I noticed that something's had a little bite, but I'm not sure that it's recent. I think it's quite a long time ago. But I think you're right. Yeah, but I don't think that we see it as often here as perhaps you might. I mean, I don't know, but I've not really come across moths as an issue.
Yeah.
But, touch wood. Touch wood.
Right. Yeah. And another related question is, well, how does one lay your hat, right? Your hat down, right? And I've seen both opinions, right? In terms of the orientation of the hat. Some folks, and I think the general consensus, well, I don't say general consensus, but the thing I hear the most is to lay it on top of its crown. I've also heard folks that say the opposite. It's like, well, you don't want the weight of the hat on top of the crown. So I don't know if you guys have, any strong opinions either way on one or both of those.
I'm probably not the person to comment on this, other than I'm not that cautious.
Right.
Yeah, I'm the same, Robert. I mean,
I'm the same.
I think, to be perfectly frank, when you've got a steamer and the tools at home, if you happen to sit on a hat, which I've never done yet, but you can do, you can put it back into shape, But I think on a lot of my hats, I try and get the sweatband where the reed is just to be slightly above the felt, So if you do pop it down flat, then it's yes, some of the felt will touch the table, but one would hope that it will be the reed, if you like, of the sweatband. And and the other thing is on the top here. I mean, I don't like putting it on the top because you never know what's on the surface, and it's it's difficult to deal with the crown of a hat. If I think it is probably not for Robert, but I'd rather deal with it the other way. So for me, I put it flat down, and but frankly, when I take it off, if I'm out, I put it into a backpack that I've carried, so that I then know that actually it's not being put down on any surface at all.
Right. I'm the same way, and I think for the same reasons. Meaning, I'd rather, if it's going to get something on it, I'd rather see something and deal with it here on the very bottom of the brim than on top of the crown. And I'm not somebody that steams their hats, at all. I don't think I've yet to steam a hat. So for me, preserving the crown shape, if I got it the shape the way I like it, I'd like to preserve that. So for me, it's very easy choice to say, I'm going to put it right there, not on its crown. I'm going to lay it flat. And, it's worked out. But again, I know that isn't the general recommendation that folks get. But for me, like, I think I echo a lot of the statements, which is when you have a certain amount of hats, there are a lot of things that you have to be a little bit more comfortable with, right? It's very similar to the guys that are that have a lot of guns, right? If you got enough guns to arm France, you're probably not going to be there meticulously cleaning them every single day, or and give them the treatment that somebody would if they just had a few, one or two guns. And I think it very much applies with hats and anything else that you might collect. You're not gonna have the time, even if you're really into the hobby, to be able to devote and to take care of each and every one to the utmost. So there's certain things that you have to be, for time's sake, be a little bit more comfortable doing and leaving to chance. And, if that bothers you, then maybe you have to kind of figure out a happy medium there. But I know that the number of hats is a big factor in a lot of this.
Yeah. The one caveat about, because I'll often come in, like if I'm wearing a hat like this, and I'll just come in and I'll just, like, I have a lazy boy just to my left, and I'll just come in and I'll fling it on the lazy boy, and or if I take it off in the shop, I'll just toss it on one of the tables in the shop.
Yeah.
Except for if I have a good hat, say like the one you're wearing, Paul, I have hats that are like that, but it's more of a Western vibe, and they don't have a snap brim. So I can't snap the brim up before I lay it down. So there's a kind of like a Packer curve for the front and back.
Yeah.
Because I don't like to lay them crown down, and with that curved style, they don't lend themselves. I can't put it brim down either without it. Just the weight of the hat starting to flatten out brim.
Correct.
So those I'll take pains to put back in the hat box.
Yeah.
And I've got two different types of hat boxes depending on the crown shape. But so it's crowned down, but it's being cradled in the box.
Yeah.
Right.
And that protects the brim, because if I treated a hat like that cavalierly, there would be
consequences.
Consequence.
Right.
I was going to say damage, but not damage, but consequences.
Yeah.
And one more thing I wanted to mention here, which is, and we've talked about this before, but in terms of travel, storing there's one thing to store your hats while they're at home, which is I think the majority of the folks, but they are hats that we tend to travel with. And I just want to get your guys' take in terms of how do you handle travel with hats?
Up until now, my answer would be, like, if we're flying, if we're driving somewhere, it's not an issue. But up until this point, if we're flying, I don't travel with a hat.
Got it.
I'll take, depending on where we're going, but I'll either take a baseball hat and or a newsboy, because they fit in my luggage, or I can wear it on the plane and put my. But I just picked up. I did a swap with Jeff Garfield he's on the
shout out to Jeff. Good guy.
We did a swap where I did a repair for him, and I got two of his. I don't know. They're a vinyl fabric hat carrier, and they were really reasonably priced.
Yes, I have one. Yes,
and like they're brilliant. And they came. I bought a narrow one and a big one, and I just discovered the other day that you can fit two hats. Particularly, so my wife and I we can take a hat each in one, because her hats fit inside mine. Yes, that's it. They're brilliant. I'm thinking, where have you been all my life?
Yeah.
That's I got that to show you. It's a similar thing. I think I paid £10 for that secondhand, and if I'm going out to a customer, I can pop it in there. I'll pop it in there, or I'll. But interesting. I've had this dilemma of looking at how do you turn up to a client if you're going out to meet them to look professional, to present them with their new hat. Obviously, you can have the box that you give them in it anyway, but the cardboard box. But it's what is appropriate to turn up. And in fact, I was looking at people like Crossbow. They're a leather manufacturer. They make, I think, for Nick Fouquet, he's got a leather hat box, and people like Lulu Guinness, but they're asking about £1,200. I mean, about $1,500 for a hat box. And it's like, what? I'd want a wardrobe of hats for $1,500.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just like, as a hatter that's trying to create a good influence. I mean, I've taken to using I've got a Gladstone bag, a traditional English Gladstone bag. I'm sort of using that a bit more now. But I'm trying to find that balance, between that plastic carrier that I've just showed you and something that's a bit more in keeping with the tradition of being a hatter.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I can't recall ever visiting a client. They always they come to me. So I've never had that. I've never had that problem. Or
Yeah. And obviously it all depends on, so a lot of my travel, right, doesn't involve airlines. It'll be a road trip in my car, usually up to the New York, New Jersey area. And for me, these bags, these items that Jeff sells. By the way, if you're a member of the Fedora Lounge, I think Jeff gives you a $5 discount, I believe, on his eBay store. So just FYI, if you're interested, Jeff has an eBay store, and he gets if you're a member of the Fedora Lounge, it's easy, good reason for you to join to get the $5 discount. But I find that putting this in my trunk, I don't think I've traveled on an airline with one of these, but we had a question about whether it counts as a carry-on. This is something that seems like it could count as a personal item.
Yes.
Again, when you start, meaning an item that you can store underneath the seat if you had to. But what I find is that you can bring an item that can store on the seats, and as long as there's enough space in the overhead bins, usually they don't say anything about you throwing them up there. So I think it's a useful thing to have, right? It's better to have and not need. But for me, I echo a lot what Robert said, which is I find that flat caps make such a great companion on travel because, well, let's be honest, if I'm traveling somewhere and there's a hat shop, I'm probably going to visit that hat shop, and there's a good chance that something comes home with me, right? I'll
tell you what, I did have a Borsellino rollable hat, which is about I think it's an 80-gram felt, which is extremely light.
Wow.
And funny enough, I had a customer of mine contact me today and ask me about that particular hat, because Borsellino in the UK have got a sale on at the moment. It's about half price, which I thought was an amazing deal, actually. But it's still £200 for a rollable hat. But that works extremely well. I mean, they can roll up and go into. In my case, I just put it in the backpack or in the briefcase. But that is a great traveling companion. And to be fair, anything big, anything more substantial, I've always worn onto the plane and then just put it on my lap. Unless I'm eating, then it either goes back on my head or up in the overhead locker.
Right.
One of the things that I do when I sell one of the FEPSA 95-gram beaver is I'll include a carry bag for the customer, and it's just a simple sack with I started at first I did a drawstring, but now I just do a simple Velcro enclosure, so that and they're silk, so they slide in a blazer pocket.
Nice.
And then when you go to a restaurant or anywhere, a theater, you can throw the hat in the bag and put it under your seat and not worry about soiling, or somebody spilling a drink on it.
So is that something you make yourself, Robert, or do you buy them in?
My wife is she's the sewer, so I contract it out.
Great idea.
Yeah. But in terms of regular care, I mean, for me, somebody like myself with the number of hats that I have, brushing is about as much as I do. And again, what typically happens is I'll have a rotation of hats. Even though I have many hats, there are certain hats that find their way into my daily rotation. Those will get a lot more care because, well, those are the ones that I'm wearing out and about, usually regularly. And they're the ones that are going to pick up a lot more dust. And those are the ones, well, I know if I use it this day, I'm probably going to use this other day, and I'll give it a brushing. That way it's preserved. And then who knows, if I really want to look extra good, I'll give it another brushing right before I leave. But the hats, the hats really are very durable, a lot more durable than we give them credit for. You know, I know Akubra. I love my Akubra. I got my Akubra from Jeff, by the way. Shout out to Jeff again for hooking me up with my first Akubra. But Akubra gets this reputation of being very durable. But I've worn my other hats, my non-Akubras, out in light rain. I haven't gone through a snow, really a big storm, but I've never had a problem with any of my hats if I got surprised and got caught in the rain. So as much as we want to baby them, of course, if you love to take care of your babies, that's fine, but don't get too scared if you get some drops on your hat, because they're okay. They're going to be fine.
Yeah. I mean, you figure they're either beaver or rabbit, and both those animals spend their life outside.
Yeah.
So it's like, you don't have to be precious with them at all.
Correct.
And I mean, it's harder with about half of my clients are online and the other half are local. And for the local ones, it's easy because they know that if anything, if the hat gets wet and it gets distorted, it's like bring it back and I'll because usually it's like a 5-minute steam and you send them on their way. So it's like I send them off, particularly if they're a first-time hatter. I send them off with the admonition. It's like, don't you dare baby this hat. Like, wear it.
That's right.
Wear the
the heck out of it.
Yeah, it's like
the other thing you can do, Luke, is tape. Like packing tape, the sort of 50 mil wide packing tape.
Yeah.
Wrap that around your hand. In fact, I think it was Kevin that showed us on that originally, but I use it quite often to get when you've got a hat that's been on top of a wardrobe and it's been perhaps in a estate sale or something, and nobody's bothered cleaning it or anything, then taking that off first of all can lift it without damaging anything underneath, and then giving it a bit of a steam or a wipe over, and then the brush. So if you don't have a brush, at least you can use some packing tape, because most people have got some sellotape or packing tape that will lift off the worst of the dirt.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
I'll often use that as a final, because particularly on a black hat, because it's almost, even with the brush, it's almost impossible to get all of the lint off it. It's like, that's why I think I own 2 black hats, because they're a pain in the ass. And the final pass with the tape is perfect.
Yeah.
It's funny you should say that, Robert, because I was if you've seen that film Le Mans '66 with what's his name? Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, the lead in there wears an open road, which is black. So I made myself one very similar to it. And it's 80% beaver, but the problem is it shows the dirt and the dust like there's no tomorrow. And I hadn't really factored that in. So every time, I've only just finished making it, so it's not that old, but every time I go to sort of pick it up, it's like, there's another speck on it, or because all the airborne dust is just. So I'm probably going to live to regret that one,
and then in the act of brushing it, so you'll finish this half of the hat, and then you'll look down, and just in the few seconds that you've been brushing that part of the hat, there's been more lint deposited on the back. It's just
you're absolutely right. Yeah.
The other thing you mentioned in the setup for this is, and we should touch on leather, the sweatband care.
Yes.
Again, I'm not a great one to speak to this, because I don't do anything.
Yeah.
But I have so many hats, and so like any one hat doesn't get worn a ton. And secondly, I live in a really mild climate, and I don't sweat a lot anyways. So the sweatband doesn't see a lot of perspiration.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most damaging thing, is particularly because some people their sweat is quite acidic.
Correct.
And I think if you're one of those people, like, you do need to take care. But I haven't had to. So if I get a vintage hat, I'll maybe give it a pass with just some Lexol cleaner, just so it cleans off the obvious stuff. But it's like my new sweatbands. I don't bother.
Yeah. Paul?
I think when I love the patina that can be generated from the perspiration onto the sweatband, but and for the vintage hats, I think it's a bit of a thing that there's a lot of people out there that don't particularly want to wear a second-hand hat, and so I use some leather cleaner to I give it a bit of a steam. Okay, that's going to shrink the leather perhaps, but I use a cleaner, and then if I have to, I introduce some isopropanol, but very lightly, isopropanol and water, and that tends to lift off most of the removable stains if there's anything. But
grime.
Yeah, the grime, and and then but I do have some leather softener that I use on my jackets and bags, and actually I put that in. But here's the debate: if you get something like these sweatbands are the nice ones that I get in from America, and you've only really got to wear them a day or so, and being without hair, then clearly my skin is touching the sweatband, and therefore it is going to perspire. Whereas I suspect that if you've got a cushion, in so much as you've got a full head of hair, then you've got a little bit of air running between the hair, and you're probably not going to get so much. But so it's very difficult not to get these changing color because of the patina, and it's up to you as to how you feel about that. But for me, I say to customers that it's part of the ownership pleasure. It's a bit like wearing in a pair of shoes, and it's going to take a little while, but then they'll be comfortable.
Right. And I mean, for me, now that I've gotten into leather jackets, I had leather shoes before that, but there's a company called Saphir, and they make various products. And again, I'm not an expert, so definitely look into all the products that you use on your leather products. Obviously, the main recommendation is if you're going to try a new leather product, work on some part of the leather that you don't mind seeing some discoloration. And I believe I have two of these products. One of them will cause more discoloration than the other. So this one is called the Renovateur. I think it's very popular. And this one is mink oil based. And I know there are various theories about what the utility of mink oil, but this company, it's considered a high-end product. But I justified it because, one, besides having a lot of leather sweatbands that may need a touch-up, I have leather shoes as well as leather belts and of course, leather jackets. So these products, I definitely look into them. And like always just experiment on a piece that you're trying for the first time that's not going to be that visible. That way you don't ruin anything. And I think there's another one. This one is jojoba or jojoba. I don't know what
jojoba,
but that's jojoba based. So just in case you don't want mink oil on your shoes, or you have these other products that they sell, and again, they have various properties, but I find that they work really well. They add a little bit of sheen without too much sheen, because I know that's very touchy kind of personal decision in terms of your leather. But yeah, if I see a leather sweatband that looks a little discolored or seems a little brittle, I'll add a little bit of this just to kind of give it a little bit more life, but not too much. I don't go crazy. And just like Robert mentioned, so at some point when you have a certain amount, you have to be a little bit more comfortable with some of the natural properties of some of the leather and not worry about it way too much.
The problem I've had is that I've got all the liquids to be able to take all of the color out of the leather, to re-dye it with the professional dyers, and then reseal it because of the work that I used to do on leather bags and things. But the thing with a sweatband, the obvious thing is it's stitched into the hat, and so it's very difficult not to get these dyes and these liquids onto the felt. So then you're into the dilemma of taking off the sweatband. But then by the time you're taking off the sweatband, you might as well replace it with a new sweatband. So,
Right.
and I've only ever really done outside of the restoration work that I've done and resold hats. I think I've only ever done about 2, maybe 3 sweatband replacements in hats for people.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether that's something you do a lot of, Robert, but it doesn't seem to be that popular over here.
It depends on the age, and it's very strange because I've done a fair number of restorations, and you'll get a collectible Stetson from the 50s,
Yeah.
or even newer, and the sweatband is just you touch it. I mean, it looks fine, and then it's like, oh, okay, the sweatband's good here, but then you touch it and it crumbles in your hands.
Correct.
Then you can get another hat, another Stetson from the 50s, and the sweatband is as new.
Correct.
It's like I have no idea, like, why. What did this one hat go through and survive, whereas this one didn't? It's inexplicable. And I know other people, like Brent from the Fedora Lounge and the Facebook page. He's applied conditioners to vintage sweatbands.
Yeah.
And actually have the conditioner destroy the sweatband.
Oh,
there you go.
Yeah.
So it's like it's
yeah. When you're dealing with chemicals,
I can't explain it,
No.
but it's like it's kind of like a bit of a crapshoot. But I've done most often, if I get a vintage Stetson, it's a rarity where the sweatband is salvageable.
Yeah.
And I do, because sometimes, when you're doing a restoration, the provenance of the hat is in the sweatband.
Correct.
The minute you take the sweatband out, it devalues the hat by a fairly large percentage. So it's, if you can salvage it, I know I've done reedless sweatbands where some of the stitching the leather around the stitching has deteriorated, but the rest of the band is okay. So I've taken the sweatband out, trimmed off the old stitching, sewed it back in.
Right.
So the provenance is still there. It's just like an eighth of an inch narrower. But
I did a Panama recently, and that was a bit like you just said. When you touched it, and I flipped it out, the stitching went around the edge, so I had to restitch it. But then what I decided to do, because it already had the patina from the sweat. Now I cleaned it, but it didn't really change the color. So I consulted with the client and said, look, if you continue with this hat, the sweatband is actually going to deteriorate. But what I can do is put several applications of leather softener on it over a period of 10 days, 2 weeks. But what it's going to do, it's going to give the effect of perspiration being on there. In other words, it's going to change color slightly, and but it's going to still remain as a sort of patina that you'd expect to get on a sweatband for a hat. So he went for that, and it did. It took me probably no more than about 10 minutes a day, and I applied it with my finger, skin on the leather, and just worked it in, and then left it to dry, air dry, and just did that, and probably put 10 coats on it, and it did. It started becoming quite supple, but I couldn't charge the customer, not much for doing that and the other bits and pieces. That's the thing is you do some of these things for the love of wanting to actually maintain that. That gentleman had a lot of family history with that hat, and wanted to do right by him. But what was right by him, because the hat was disintegrating, it was a difficult one, to be fair,
Often, I mean, I kind of divide it into, if it's a customer of mine, and it doesn't entail too much work, I'll do it for free, just as value added, and because they see me as like I'm their hatter, I have a status, so it's kind of nice to kind of return the favor and solidify the but also I also categorize it well, the one I'm doing now, where I posted, where I'm restoring that actual tuxedo hat.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, economically, it makes no sense at all, because I can't charge them the number of hours that we're putting
Right.
into it. But I consider it's part of my education as a hatter.
Yeah.
It's expanding my knowledge, my capabilities, and that's probably worth more than, I don't know, the $30 an hour I would charge him.
Yeah.
So I just write it off as it's education.
Now,
Yeah.
I have a question about stains. So what happens when you actually do get your hat stained? Have you guys had, hadn't had, other than just basic water, I've not used anything on any of my hats. I just kind of like accept it as, well, this is kind of the what happened, right? It's kind of like a dent in your car or a scratch in your car. Some folks are bothered by it, other folks are not. But if you are bothered and you see a stain, have you guys had luck with certain chemicals or not, or maybe the opposite of luck? Something's like, I thought that was going to work, it didn't.
Do you want to go, Paul? Do you want to?
Well, I mean, look, I've only had limited experience really, but I have used things like isopropanol. But you know what?
Yeah.
First of all, I'd say start off with water, then maybe water and a mild detergent,
Right.
soapy detergent, if you like, but
Right.
very, very small. I mean, I wouldn't really suggest, if it was a serious stain, I wouldn't suggest that you try and do it at home. I mean, if it will wipe off easily, then yeah, but otherwise get somebody to do it that knows what they're doing. But steam can lift an awful lot, because sometimes, if it's something that's gone on there and then it's gone hard for some reason, then maybe steam can soften that up and then enable that to come off. And the last thing really is to use a chemical, which is the alcohol-based chemicals, but you don't really want to get to that far if you can help it.
Yeah.
I'd add to that is, you have to be really careful with stains, because there's the risk of making it worse.
Right.
And probably the risk of making it worse is much higher than the outcome of making it better.
Yeah.
Particularly if it's an old hat.
Right.
Because there's so an old hat of yours or a vintage one you've picked up that has a stain in the crown.
Correct.
That hat is dirty, right? It's got 30 years of atmospheric dust and grime, particularly if it hasn't been brushed regularly and all of that. So there's a stain. So what happens if you try to spot remove it? The worst thing you can do is have it work, because now you have a clean spot.
A clean spot. Yeah.
And the rest of the hat is still dirty.
Yes.
It's a really good point. Yeah.
And so now it stands out like a sore thumb.
Yeah. It's like repainting your hood of your car, and it never matches, right? Like even some of the best, right? Because it's never going to come out like the factory. We don't have the equipment to make it. None of the folks that you can get aftermarket paint job can have that level of equipment as factory. And then you start seeing, you can't unsee it once you get it done. It's funny how that works.
It's in neon. So that what I've learned in doing the restorations is, in general, don't even consider spot cleaning. Because when I've tried it, I've only made it worse.
Right.
And it's like, if you're going to do it, the only surefire way is to strip the hat down and clean it.
Yeah.
Because a spot, when you think about it, you're trying to clean it, spot clean it. Where does that stain go?
Right.
And what happens in a spot clean is you disperse it, and you dilute it, but you make it larger. And the only way to get rid of a stain is you have to flush it out.
Right.
Which means you have to wash the hat. Which means that you have to tear it down, which means you have to reblock it. It's like you have to be. You're essentially taking the hat back to a raw felt and starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Now, and this is where it gets a little tricky, because that's not true in all cases. Because if you walk out of your hatters with a brand new hat and then get a spot of lipstick on it or something, like you might be able to with a spritz of alcohol, or, as you suggest, Paul, some water, like, because the stain is not set into the hat, and you might get lucky and it's just sitting on top of the fibers, so but it's like there's no book you can write.
No.
It's almost it's an unanswerable question.
Correct.
So I think the safest is patina and live with it.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of how I've come to the, and I guess that's an advantage of buying vintage, is that chances are you're not going to have, I mean, you do see those hats as like, wow, this hat's never been worn. I'd have come across those, but more often than not, you don't come across or expect that a vintage hat is going to come to you without its character marks. And the nice thing is that if it comes to you that way, you're like, okay, in wearing them, because I try to wear as many of my hats as I can. And you're like, okay, well, if this ends up going to somebody else, they're going to know that Luke wore this hat, or, it was worn and loved. It served its duty. Right. So if you have that attitude, I think you're going to be a lot better served and not worrying about and getting stressed out over every single spot, right? Because you could really get yourself into a frenzy.
One last thing around that is Art Fawcett always kept a spray bottle of new clean naphtha on his workbench.
Yeah,
and that's what he used to dissipate like minor stains in the felt.
Yeah,
because naphtha is good, particularly for oils and grease and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So he would use that.
Tip.
My experience is I tend to get full restorations, so I've never really experimented with other than, I don't know, when I prick my finger and I get blood on a felt or something, something that I've done and I know what it is.
Right.
And I repair it right away.
Right. Yeah. And it's one of those things where I'm like, we talked about the ebony and ivory, right? There was a hole in the felt. Yeah. Sometimes, we see these things and they can be opportunities for you to add your own stamp on something. So sometimes, right, when life hands you lemons, you make limoncello, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you got to figure out a way to make sure that you don't get fixated too much, because sometimes it can just be an opportunity to create something cool. I want to make sure that is there anything else about hat storage that you guys want to share? Yeah.
One other thing, that the third aspect is, and Paul, I want you to chime on this too, is it's not uncommon, particularly if you have a light colored crown ribbon.
Yeah.
And even sometimes if you're bashing the hat and you're careless with when you're spritzing the water, you could get water on the crown ribbon.
Yeah.
And it leaves a watermark, particularly if it's a light colored
ribbon.
Yeah.
So so the way that I've found is you're not so much getting rid of it as you're hiding it. Right. You just spritz the whole damn ribbon.
Right.
Yeah. I've had a problem where I've been out. In fact, I went out to the races one day, and it was a very hot day. Had a hat on all day. Didn't notice because obviously it's on my head, but the perspiration marks came through onto the ribbon. Yeah. Now I was horrified. I mean, obviously I could take off the ribbon and replace it, but in thinking, what's my customer going to do with that? And you can use some hot water and just and apply that to lessen it, but it's very, very difficult to get rid of at that point because of course it's salt-based water from your perspiration that's gone in. So it's a real that's one of my real pet hates, if you like, is that
Right.
we encourage ourselves and people to wear hats on a daily basis. Yet, if they do, there's the risk of putting these stains on the hat. That
Right.
the only way to really deal with it is to get the hatter to do another ribbon. But,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is one thing if they live nearby and they can pop in, but it's a whole other thing if we have to spend $60 back and forth, and a month's worth of time. So yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, we are a little bit over an hour into this. I think unless anybody wants to add anything else, we'll just close out the show here. I want to thank you both for chiming in. It's always a treat when you get two hatters here to get their perspective. Obviously, we have folks here besides Josh. We have other folks that are hat enthusiasts. We're not hatters. And I try to, chime in when I can as a vintage, hat nerd. But yeah, this is obviously there's so much of this is going to be up to personal choice. But it's always nice to have kind of to see some of the commonalities between the various folks. And then you guys at home, obviously you have to kind of take in all the information and deal with what's comfortable to you. But I want to thank you both for joining us today. And I'm going to just keep saying this as I always say it. Support all the folks on the Good Looks Network. Support your hatters that are not in the Good Looks Network. You don't need to be in the Good Looks Network to be supported, right? You can go subscribe to the YouTube channels, subscribe to their Instagrams, as well as their Facebook pages, visit their websites. But you know what I'm going to say? Even if you don't support anybody in the Good Looks Network or a hatter outside the Good Looks Network, the one thing you got to do, and it's non-negotiable, and I'm not getting anybody after you because we won't need to get anybody after you. The one thing you got to do is you got to stay hatting, my friend. Have a great day. Ciao, everybody.
Ciao.
Thanks, Luke.
Fun as usual.
Nice to see you all.
Good to see you.